Just make yourself at home. If you're still eating, continue on. Don't worry about me and what I have to say. Nobody usually listens to me.
But I hope I do.
I hope you do too.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
That's what I come for, not to eat.
I got one quick story for you. It's wide open. You had to sit closer. It's all we got. I'll try to do better. It appears back in the Depression days, there was a family that was pretty poor. They didn't really have much to go around with the kids to eat. So he said it got so bad. This fellow was telling a story about how he grew up. He said it got so bad, Mama would set us all around the table, and she would get out a recipe book and just read the recipe to us. We didn't have no food to cook. And you think that's bad? He said he had a younger brother that was hard of hearing, and he near about starved that year. That's pretty bad. We don't know how good we got it. I'm going to talk about something tonight that if you know me well, you're going to think I'm the biggest hypocrite that's ever walked up here and spoke. And that's probably going to be close to the truth. But I'm going to try to talk about priorities. And I've never set priorities, obviously, but we'll get into that a little bit as we go. I would say I wish someone had shared with me what I'm going to share with you tonight years ago when I was younger, but I'm sure I wouldn't have listened to them and I wouldn't pay any attention to them. But what really brought it to my attention was just a few weeks ago, I think Scotty Scheffler evidently won the British Open, and now I think they just call it the Open. I don't follow golf like I used to, but I heard an interview on AFR, and they were talking about him being interviewed at the Open prior to it. The guy was, he was the number one golfer or number two. He's bounced back and forth. He's as good as there is in the world. But the interviewer asked him about the importance of golf and how long it had been his main priority and how important it was. And he shared with, he said, look, golf's not my main priority. Faith and family comes ahead of golf, actually. And it's the number one golfer in the world, and I thought that was kind of odd. And the interviewer thought it was kind of odd that he would place faith and family ahead of golf as priorities in his life. The interviewer looked him up after he won the tournament, and he said, now let's ask that same question again. Now is golf more important? He said, absolutely not. He said, I'm telling you, faith and family comes well before golf in my life. And I don't know how Tom Brady got involved, but the next interview was Tom Brady. Everybody know Tom Brady? I think they refer to him as the GOAT, and I never thought that was a very good acronym, but it stands for greatest of all time, and I didn't know that for a while after they were calling everybody the GOAT. But Tom Brady, I'm not a big fan of Brady's. He was not a very good person, I think, but evidently he was a real good quarterback. But he had Super Bowl, I think he was in the Super Bowl 10 times, and he won 7 of those 10. So you can't argue with his record. He either had a good coach, a good team, or he was just a good quarterback. But when they interviewed Tom about it and they explained what Scotty had said, Tom said, Scotty's just too young. He's only 27, 28, something like that. Just let the fame sink in and give him some time, and you'll see him change his opinion. Golf will then be greater importance to him than faith and family. Well, I think Tom should have stuck to football and leave the psychology to Dr. Phil or somebody. Because Scotty, even on top of his game, is bold enough to stand in front of the world on the television screen and say, golf is okay, but it is not my life. It's not my livelihood. It's God and family are more important than the golf. You got to figure, you just think about it, without God given talent, there would be no golf. Without an understanding family, there would be no golf. These boys travel, 300 days a year probably, strains of family. But the priorities thing, I really have never thought about priorities. I don't think I've ever had any priorities. We grew up working, and that was our priority, work. We had to work to eat, you had to work to live, and work was pretty much our priority. And I'm not saying I had a hard raising, I'm just saying we were raised to work. And I'm thinking work came ahead of family, came ahead of church sometimes. Now, we were raised to come to church too. I was born in this church. I've told the story many times. The first place I went to was Antioch Church. But every minute that I had free, I spent working. Some of you know me, know this fact about me. When I turned 24, I had 4 kids at home. I wouldn't recommend that if you're a young man now. But when you turn 44 and the baby's 20, it ain't bad. But them first 20 years are tough. But we spent more time working than I spent with family. Work, I guess, was my priority. It was ahead of family. It was ahead of church from time to time. But mostly ahead of family. I didn't really catch it. Evidently, Scotty saw it, but in the Bible it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of this will be added unto you. If I'd have seeked God first, I might not have had to work as hard. I think Scotty caught that verse. I think I might have missed it. Some time ago, and I mean not very long ago, I realized I ain't going to finish today. I worked, like I say, we worked from sun up to sundown, and if it didn't get done, we worked past sundown, or we got up early the next morning. But I've kind of broke down here 3 or 4 or 5 years ago and decided, you know what, I ain't going to finish today. I'll stop where I'm at, and I'll start back tomorrow, and my life got a little bit better. Wasn't quite as stressed after that. It just seems like I told myself if I was going to be successful, I had to be in everything out there. I was Chamber of Commerce, vice presidents and members, and did all the ribbon cuttings. I played sports. I played golf. Anywhere there was a crowd of people, I was in the sales business, so I thought I had to be in the crowd and making a point that everybody knew I was there. I played so much sports, my body wore out, my knees wore out, my ankles wore out. At some point, your body will tell you that's enough. I felt like I still needed to compete. And I'm telling you, if you know me, you know this also. If I can't compete, I'll get my ball and go home. I've got to be competitive. I've got to win. When I couldn't play sports anymore, I decided I'd start fishing. We started bass fishing. Standing up a boat 8-9 hours a day, making 3,000 or 4,000 casts a day, that probably won't wear your body out. But I felt like I had to win. And I felt like I could do that and be competitive and win. And we did win. Didn't we, Hockaday? That's my fishing buddy there. If he'd have caught 2 more on most of them terms, he caught me in his idea. But we did win. But when I look back at what we won, few dollars, it's gone. I had some trophies that were, I think we won Angler Year twice, and the 3rd year we were 2nd, and those trophies were so big we didn't have where to put them, and the dust and the trophies are in the trash now. So all that's gone. I think all that stuff that I thought was important at the time, that I thought was a priority, is gone. The only thing we got left is a few good memories, and we got some good memories, and I wouldn't take anything for them. But I think it's kind of depressing to think of what I might have missed because my priorities were mixed up. I read where in 1924 there was a young man named Eric Liddell. He was a 100-meter runner. He actually qualified for the 1924 Olympics. I think that's a big deal to qualify for the Olympics. Bad news, the Olympics fell on Sunday. That particular race fell on Sunday. Eric Liddell was a devout Christian. Said he couldn't race. He was not going to put the Olympics ahead of God. The 400-meter race was to be run on Monday. Eric had never been competitive in the 400-meter race. He was always 2 seconds behind. I think the best he ever ran in the 400 was 48.7 seconds. And that will finish you a far distant last in the Olympic Games in that race. So he started training to run that race. He was still not very competitive at the time the Olympics rolled around. He only had a couple of weeks to train. When he walked out on the track to run the race, a person gave him a piece of paper. On the paper, it said 1 Samuel 2:30. To break that down, paraphrase it, it says, I will honor those who honor me. Eric ran the best time ever. He beat his best ever time by more than 2 seconds and won a gold medal. You don't shave off 2 seconds when you're Olympic runners. That's a big, big deal. But God honored Eric because Eric honored God. A couple of weeks ago, every now and then, we've got a place at Sneads Ferry, and I will, for some reason, stay over Sunday and skip church, I call it. I usually get permission from the preacher. There's a church down there we attend, and it's a lot like our church. It's just an old country church, good pastor, talks on my level, I understand him. Got to hug everybody's neck or shake your hand when you come in, knows most of us, his name, even though I'm there 2 or 3 times a year. I walked up to him, shook his hand. I said, preacher, this mess better be good because I'm skipping church on account of you. And he kind of got that. He said, well, I hope it's good too because I need it to be good. But he talked about, what are you full of? That was his topic. What are you full of? And I thought that falls in line with what I'm talking about. What are your priorities? What are you full of? If you're full of yourself, it's going to be a short road. You just ain't going to be successful. You have got to put God first, family shortly behind God, and you can come later or down the line, but you really have got to question yourself, what am I full of? I think about Charlie Kirk. I never followed Charlie much. I had seen a few of his discussions. I thought he did a really, really good job. I wish I had 10% of his knowledge and ability to speak. But they said Charlie was killed at 12:25. And I have lost a verse and the internet's not working enough, but it's either Luke 12:25 or John 12:25 or Mark 12:20. It's one of the Gospels, 12th chapter, 25th verse. Talks about the grain of head has got to die and fall to the ground to replenish and remultiply. And it just happens. So if you question the Bible, if you question God, stuff like that happens for a reason. And at that exact time and that exact Bible verse tells you we have to die ourselves and be replanted to replenish. And that to do that, you've got to have God first as a priority. My eyes begin to open a little bit from Charlie Kirk's situation, hearing that AFR interview, and I think my schedule, which I've never really made a good schedule either. I get up early and I work. And I get to a certain time of day and I stop. It might be 4 o'clock, it might be 8 or 9 o'clock. Usually it ain't 10 because I'm an early bird. But I'm beginning to think it ain't no good to set a priority unless you're going to match it with a schedule. If I'm going to tell you I'm going to put God first and I'm not going to schedule time Sunday to come to church and time Wednesday night to come to church and the last Monday of each month to come fellowship with you guys, I hadn't set a priority. I've got to schedule my time to match what priorities I set. And if it's important enough to make it a priority, it's important enough to set it in a schedule. I've got grandkids now. Now, when I had kids, I worked. I didn't have time to go to a lot of the games. I coached some, but some of the school programs I just didn't go to. Hardly ever went with them on a vacation. We just worked. We worked so they could have, and looking back, I can tell you, probably wasn't the right idea, wasn't the right decision to make, but I can't change that decision. That's why I said if somebody had told me what I'm trying to share with you tonight 30, 40 years ago, I'm sure I wouldn't have listened, but I sure would have loved to have and made a little bit of difference. Just recently, and I mean month, 2, 3 ago, I realized how much time I spend on this thing, even when I'm with family, even when I'm away from work at lunch or at the beach. Sneed's Ferry, we call it the beach. It really ain't the beach. I've got to learn that this is not a priority. Work is important, but it's not a priority. I've got to learn that. It's been a hard lesson, but my eyes are beginning to open. I begin to see that it's got to be 3rd, 4th, or 5th, somewhere down the line. Oh, it's just hard to break a 50 or 60-year-old habit, and my habit is to go work, and look after things. Put other people first. If that's God and family, that's fine. But a lot of my putting other people first are customers and people that I'm trying to make customers. And we are working towards making that better. So like I say, I wish I had caught this earlier. I don't know if what I'm saying tonight's going to have any bearing on any of you or mean anything. And I don't like to talk about myself, but I feel like if I talk about myself, I'm not going to embarrass any of you guys. I'll embarrass myself. And I'm certainly not trying to put myself on some kind of a pinnacle or to make me better. I've messed up in life, and I'm seeing those errors that I could have made and could have done a little better. So I'm going to hush with that. And I again will thank all of you for coming. We couldn't do it if you didn't show up. As somebody's asked me tonight about it. I said, look, if I cooked all this food and nobody showed up, wouldn't I have a mess? So I appreciate you stopping, leaving your family, making us a priority tonight ahead of God and family, I guess, or God's here. I sure know without him I couldn't do this. So thank you for coming. Anybody want to add something?